Here we go. I should be recording. Did you get a notification? Awesome. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. We do have a really full agenda today, so we actually decided to skip the welcome that was on the original agenda. Shantae says she can't see the slides, so let me.
No. I can see them.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Good. All right, so we're going to skip any big welcome, but Leah and Shantae are both here, vice chair and chair, and we're going to move right into Shantae. Talk to us about the budget.
Good morning, everyone. Because our agenda is pretty full, I just really wanted to take the time to go over some highlights of the, I like to call them the OCDEL part of the governor's budget, and really just note our 4 key initiatives. So it was announced that we will be increasing the CCW reimbursement rates to the 75th percentile of private pay rates. So really excited about the opportunity to be able to do that work. Preschool early intervention will receive an increase of 17 million. HISAP will do a $2.7 million increase, and pre-K counts will have a proposed, so all these are all proposed $30 million increase. And really that increase for pre-K counts is specific to a rate increase as we think about salary and wages. So really wanted to take the time to kind of explain. So it's not an increase in seats or slots, it's an increase in the rates to do that work. So just wanted to share. I didn't want to take a lot of time on it, but definitely wanted to just go over our 4 key pieces, but wasn't sure if anyone had any questions on the call. I can certainly answer them before we move on to the next slide.
I was hoping for questions to go into the chat just to save time, but if anybody wants to come off mute, we can definitely save some time for that. Otherwise, we're going to keep moving. Some housekeeping to go over. So SAC will be a voting council, and we're going to use Zoom polls during quarterly meetings to vote. Today, we will vote on the bylaws. And to prep for that, we're going to quickly do a test run just so everybody is familiar with how to vote. So we're going to do a mock vote quick. I'm going to send that your way. And for this one, Colin, did that pop up? Awesome. For this one, everyone can vote. Everyone on the call can vote on this one. And for the next one, we're going to vote on the bylaws, and that will just be executive SAC members. That means that if you work for OCDEL or one of the business partners, you are not an executive SAC member, other than a few of the appointed positions, and they know who they are.
I was really looking forward to voting in this mock vote question here, but that's fine.
Oh no, for this one, everybody can vote. This one's
okay.
just for fun. Please vote. Please vote yes. I knew Colin would like this one. All right. I'm going to end poll, share results. And Colin, the numbers. We win, Phillies win. So how many people do we have? Are there 33 people on the call? We have more than that.
39.
Okay. All right. So everyone received the bylaws. All the executive SAC members received the bylaws. You had a time to review and send in any edits. So we are going to vote on the bylaws today. And I'm going to send that vote. Oh, sorry. Hold on. We have Steve in the waiting room. Okay, so here's the real vote. This is executive SAC members only. Executive SAC members are the people that were appointed by the governor as the executive council members. If you are a SAC subcommittee co-chair on the OCDEL side, you are not an executive SAC member. All right, we have a majority, so I'm going to go ahead and end the poll. Share results. That's pretty easy. I think we can move on. Okay, quickly, resignations and nominations. You can find that in the bylaws as well. But Article 4 in composition states that a council member's resignation must be in writing and submitted to the chair, vice chair, and governor's office. A nomination for a vacancy requires the DHS nominee for board appointment form and a letter of recommendation. So when those situations do pop up, I will guide everybody through that process. And any questions, concerns on voting or bylaws, you can add those to the chat and we will follow up. Next up are the SAC subcommittee updates. And Adrian Briggs.
Good
Are you here,
afternoon,
Adrian?
everyone. I'm here. Yes. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Okay, I'm just going to go over. This is for access to programs. So just a draft of the mission statement is the purpose. To purpose tangible policy recommendations that create, expand, and sustain a diverse system of quality and equitable programs for Commonwealth families through the Office of Child Development and Early Learning. Okay, and our priorities are addressing workforce shortages, advising PDG work, identifying barriers for existing providers to expand, identifying barriers for new providers to open, modifying requirements, standards to promote inclusion, maintain focus on home-based childcare, yes, and assist the middle-class families who do not meet the CCW eligibility. Our past meetings were November 29th of 2023, and then also Wednesday, January 24th of this year. And then our upcoming meeting is March 21st at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Adrian.
You're welcome.
Next up is Barry with professional development.
Thanks, Neda. So our group has had one past meeting on January 23rd. So we have drafted a mission statement that has to go back to our group to be approved. But our starting point is using data-informed decision-making, we will sustain and advance a diverse system of quality professional development that is equitable and attainable for early childhood professionals. Some priorities that bubbled up in our first meeting were improving the PQAS system, incentivizing CDA courses, examining the confusion around PDOs, Teach, and Rising Stars, researching the connection between PD and staff retention, exploring alternative career pathways, and collaboration around apprenticeships. Our next two meetings are scheduled for Tuesdays on March 19th at 12:30 p.m. And May 21st at 12:30 p.m.
Thank you, Barry. Brittany, she's here for Physical, Behavioral, and Mental Health Subcommittee.
Yes, hello everyone. So we had our first subcommittee meeting back on January 9th, where we met subcommittee members, having everyone share their why for becoming a member of the PBMH subcommittee, their past experiences and current roles that they are in hopes of utilizing those to gain further experiences with our committee. So we're still working on a mission statement, hoping to incorporate some of those whys of everyone. But we do have a meeting again planned for early April, where we hope to start diving deeper into our priorities that are listed on the slide. One of our big priorities is reduction of suspension and expulsion. Other priorities, so support workforce and managing challenging behaviors. And in addition to that, kind of related, increasing mental health service accessibility. We hope to collaborate with the Early Childcare Comprehensive Systems Ad Hoc Subcommittee and also collaborate with the Access to Programs Subcommittee that just talked to help improve services for children with complex needs. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Brittany.
It's bigger than us. Bigger than us.
Emily, are you here for childcare certification and quality rating?
I am. Good afternoon, everybody. So our subcommittee met back in Tuesday, 11/13/2023 and Tuesday, January 9, 2024. We have a pending mission statement that will be going back to the group for some refining and approval. The committee will develop a uniform method of communication between certification representatives and providers, striving to create a team care environment that fosters growth for the children, providers, and certification representatives. We strive to break down communication barriers between certification and providers with the intent to create an environment that promotes a unified front and growth for all. We want to improve relationships and create a culture of collaboration and support. Our priorities at this time are to increase positive relationships between certification staff and providers, to increase buy-in to the STARS, and the systematic approach to documenting fidelity within certification. Our next meeting is scheduled for March 21st, 2024 at 3 p.m.
Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.
Carol Austin, Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging.
Hello, everyone. So our mission statement is to produce concrete, tangible policy and process recommendations and steps that can be taken to reach those policy changes. That's our goal here. Really, the mission is to eliminate disparities for marginalized groups, namely children, families, and the ECE workforce, using a body of evidence-based knowledge informed by experts around best practices regarding diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging. Our priorities are, and we want to work with certainly the professional development team to increase the training options related to DEIB, increase inclusion practices into all early childhood education work. And when we say inclusion, we're not talking about what we traditionally mean by inclusion as we think about children with disabilities, even though those are included. This is broader in the DEIB framework. Research-based, we want to also research areas for the need for increased DEIB. We know that there's bodies of research out there. We want to see what kind of data is currently captured so that we could be able to assess what the need is and what really is happening out there in the field and on behalf of children. So we're looking at research. And then we want to gather existing resources to be able to disseminate. And I don't think the advice on a PDG work was ours, but that looks interesting that that's there. And our upcoming meeting is the second. We are attempting to meet monthly, the second Tuesday of each month at 1 p.m.
Thank you, Carol. We're going to go into PDG in just a bit, so that will make a little more sense. The next slide is questions. So Colin, are there questions in the chat that need to be addressed before we move on?
Yeah, let me get up back to the top real quick. We had a question asking, will the budget for EI programs include ease and availability of these resources to programs and families more tangible?
And I think Lisa Parker was that what you were trying to address where you said, I'm not certain I understand the question?
Yeah, and then I chatted. Yep. Sorry.
Okay, because I was gonna say I didn't understand it either. I wanted to be helpful.
I apologize. It got there late. But yeah, we'll talk about it because our rates are set and it's based on number of children. So individual questions then if it's we'll take back. Thank you.
Thanks, Lisa. Sorry, I thought you were saying you
Thanks,
didn't
sorry.
understand the poll question, which
no.
didn't make sense that you wouldn't have
Right.
understood that. So now it's all making sense to me now. But so then we had Diane Barber asking if we'll be sharing out the PowerPoint, which we will. And then Beck Mercatoris asked, is a wait list anticipated once the CCW weights are moved to the 75th percentile?
So and I can take that one, I'm sorry. Becky, I think that's you. Okay, so the need to be thoughtful about a wait list is not necessarily coming with the movement to the 75th percentile. the thoughts about a wait list would come with the number of children that we continue to serve. At the way that DHS and budget has shared that information is, as we get to that point, we can be able to have a conversation about making sure that we continue to serve additional children. But no, the wait list for is not contingent upon moving to the 75th percentile currently. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please let me know.
Thanks, Shantae.
Mhm.
All right, next up, we're going to go into OCDEL updates. Shantae is going to provide us a quick update on the Bureau of Early Learning Resource Center operations.
Oh, I'm sorry. It's been a long couple days for me, so I apologize. I was like, me? I'm doing something? Yes. So, Christine Reber, our near and dear director for the Bureau of Early Learning Resource Center operations, retired. It feels like it was such a long time ago, but it really wasn't. When you really do the math, it was only a few weeks ago, but it feels like she's been going for a really long time. She actually retired, both her and her husband, who was also a state worker. He was a state trooper. They retired at the same time to be able to move with their family to Albania. So she made an international move. And so that has left a vacancy in the directorship for the Bureau of Early Learning Resource Center operations, we just call it for short ELRC Ops. So in the interim, I am very excited to welcome Nia Harris as the interim director, and just really wanted to provide that as an update. The team and Nia, through the leadership of Nia, has been doing an excellent job keeping things moving, but just really wanted to share that that there is currently a vacancy in the directorship for early learning ops.
I also just have a note here that we just wanted to speak to the ELRC contracts being in place, to be in place by July 1.
The expectation is still that some of the contracts are still in what would be contract and then procurement, so I can't speak on them wholeheartedly. But the expectation is still that July 1, we will be moving the ELRC, operations. And so I'm sorry that we can't talk about it. I know that has been a pain point for a lot of folks, but many of them are still in contracting and negotiation. So I won't be able to speak on it until those operations are complete.
Thanks so much. We're going to pass it over to Aaron, and he is going to give us an update on the CQI award.
Good afternoon. Can you guys hear me? Okay, great. Aaron McMahon here. For those who don't know me, I'm a special assistant for Shantae. Just a quick update on the CQI awards. For everyone, we had about, as most of you know, the application period ended on February 15th, and the data we have available to us right now is showing right around 96% of eligible STAR 2 through 4 providers applied for a CQI award, and that totaled about $11 million that we have slated that has gone out or is slated to go out to providers here in the next week or two. ELRCs will have until, about 3 weeks. It's March 15th to issue the remaining award funds to eligible providers. Most of the ELRCs have been sending out the funds, but for those who were who applied a little late towards the end of towards mid-February, towards the deadline, we are giving them until March 15th to get the funding out to those eligible providers. Also starting on March 15th, we're going to have the ELRCs will be distributing their FERs. And for those of you who don't like acronyms, that's the final expenditure reports to providers that received a CQI award. And I believe some ELRCs may have even started that process a little early, which is completely fine. And then if we're looking at it from the provider perspective, FERs will need to be submitted back to the ELRCs no later than May 15th. And they can do, there's a PDF format, there's those who are comfortable with Excel can use Excel, and if a provider would want to use Pelican as an option, they can contact their ELRC to do so. The FER is just a single page, it's very simple. It's a one-page single-sided, if that makes sense. So it's hopefully not too much of a heavy lift. And then just moving forward into late May, June, and then into the fall, we'll begin the monitoring process and kind of go down that road with both our ELRC Ops division and then cohort of providers as well. Netta had just provided me a couple of questions that she had received prior to today's meeting. There was a question about appeals, providers who were appealing. If there was an eligible provider that applied that received an eligibility and acceptance letter, we included information in their letter about appealing a decision to the Bureau of Hearing and Appeals and the Department of Human Services. So, for example, if a provider, we had sent them an eligibility and acceptance letter, they applied for the funds. Between the time that the ELRC received the letter and payment, that was determined they were no longer eligible, for example, say a refuse to renew or revocation status, they would have been sent a denial letter telling them or explaining to them, here's the appeal process and what they would need to do to go down that path. For providers who did not receive an eligibility and acceptance letter but thought that they were eligible for the grant, OCDEL did send out a number of mass communications to the field just saying, hey, if you have not received something from your ELRC by now, please contact them. And we did have several of those contact their ELRCs, and a few we were able to help out and get them their eligibility acceptance letter. As far as the other question we received was whether the CQI awards would be an ongoing annual program, and I can't commit to anything at the moment, but I think we were really encouraged by the number of Star 2, 3, and 4 providers that applied for that submitted an eligibility and acceptance letter for the CQI award. Like I said earlier, it was right around 96%, and we sent out over, or will be slated to send out over $11 million when it's all over. So I think we're gonna look at the FERs. We're gonna look at all the variables here, and it's definitely a possibility that we look to continue these in the future. So it's really encouraging data, and we're looking forward to thinking about it in the future. And that's all I have, Netta.
Great, Aaron. Thank you so much. If anyone has any questions, they can put those in the chat for follow-up. We're going to move to Ruby Martin, Bureau of Certification Services.
Hi, everybody. Hope you're doing well on this beautiful Monday morning. The weather here in New York is fabulous, just so you all know. We recently shared... Yeah.
Ruby, can you move your microphone up? Like you're getting some feedback.
Is it better now?
No, it's not.
Oh, I don't know that.
Oh.
Ruby, do you want me to give you a minute? We'll skip ahead and come right back.
Yeah, I don't know what to fix though, because I'm just simply on a laptop.
Do you have something you can plug in?
Maybe.
All right, I'm gonna move on and then come right back to you, Ruby. Shantae is going to speak to Bureau of Early Learning Policy and Professional Development.
Netta, I don't have my notes in front of me. That's what I was saying. I couldn't open a document.
Totally understand. Just the director vacancy and then the update you wanted to provide for pre-K counts.
Thank you, love. So just noting that the Bureau of Early Learning Policy and Professional Development has had a vacancy since Kesley Shaw's departure in December. But we're really excited. The position was posted and we received quite a few applications, 78 to be exact. So we will be starting interviews for that position very shortly. So really excited about the opportunity to move that forward. Kudos to Jessica Sands and Deb Wise, who are the division chiefs for BPPD, who have been continuing to move this work. particularly Deb Wise and Jessica. I know that I have been driving them absolutely insane as we navigate some policy pieces as we move into budget season for our pre-K counts providers, and Jessica is helping to move a lot of all of our, I'll just call it CCDF compliance. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But we are in the middle of writing our state plan and also gearing up for a monitoring visit, a federal monitoring visit. And so these two have really stepped into place to kind of move that work in absence or in lieu of a director. So I would be remiss if I didn't take the time to say thank you to the two of them on this call. For pre-K counts, sometimes I am candid to a fault, so I will just, was somebody? No, I thought somebody said something. For pre-K counts, just really wanting to note that it is will be a very large topic as we move into budget season. As you can see, we do have a proposed increase for $30 million. And really, that is not about additional seats. It's really about salary and wages for a program that is, yes, it's a pre-K program, but it is the requirements of the program put a little bit of a demand on the system and really warrants higher salaries. Pre-K counts teachers are degreed, certified, expected to be both degreed and certified teachers working in our childcare centers. And so we really wanted to be thoughtful around having increases for the cost per child so that we can think about salary and wages to either recruit staff, understanding that some of our providers have reported having to close classrooms due to the staffing shortage, or to be able to open up classrooms to serve additional children, since we do have a number of vacancies in our pre-K counts program. So just wanted to flag that for this group. Our pre-K count specialists are having ongoing conversations about the importance of data being entered for this program. You know, sometimes people take a little bit of time to get their data into Pelican, and we do not have time. Act 35 of 2023 actually requires that starting in the spring, we start reporting on any children who enter into the program within 15 days and any children who leave the program within 15 days. And so, you know, we're under a bit of a microscope when it comes to what is happening with this program, and really, really wanting the providers to understand the importance of data. If they're having challenges inputting the data or challenges with the system, please report it to your specialist, because we do anticipate that there will be some ongoing conversations about the value and importance of this program, understanding the number of vacancies that we have across the Commonwealth. And we all know, everyone that's on this call knows and understands the value of pre-K programming and early learning programming. But you know, when you have vacancies, you have to tell a very different story. So please understand that there are new program requirements that are going to start in the spring. The other piece that also is required to happen is we also have to start to have quarterly meetings. So it'll be myself and the Secretary of PDE to be able to report out on everything that is outlined in Act 35, and to talk about any potential reallocations that may happen in the program. We'll have to do that quarterly with the PDE Secretary and myself in the Senate Appropriations Committee. So just wanted to flag that, because that is new. That, you know, previously we just had to provide a report. Now we are doing some monthly reporting and quarterly meetings that were not required previously for pre-K counts. So I'll pause there in case anyone has any questions.
Thank you, Shantae. If anyone has questions, you can add them to the chat or come off mute. We're going to attempt to go back to Ruby and see how the feedback issue is.
Is it better now?
Better.
No,
Thanks,
it is
Ruby.
better. No. Oh, good. Okay.
Sound
Awesome.
great.
Thank you. That made me a little nervous because I didn't know what was going on. So a couple things from certification. One, you may have heard a rumor that flu shots are no longer being checked or cited by your certification rep. And that is, in fact, a true rumor. That's all the information that we have, is that we recently shared a message with our certification staff that we will no longer be checking for the flu vaccine. And we also have no further guidance around the COVID or the RSV vaccine as well. And that's where we're standing right now. We also have an update on the impact project. Netta's going to put some information in the chat for us. As you can see on that timeline, the project to rewrite the certification regulations has gone through many layers of review. I've heard the rumors about this since I just started in July, that since 2021, this has been a process. So right now, the proposed draft regulations are going through an in-depth certification regional manager and operations quality assurance staff review. I can assure you it's very in-depth because I'm on that team as well. October 24th through December 25th, we'll be submitting the package for regulatory review and public comment periods through IRC. And then during this time, OCDEL develops training plan and documents to support the implementation of the proposed regs. So our anticipated publication date, drum roll please, of the new regs is January 2026. And I believe that's all I have in my updates. Thanks
So much, Ruby.
No problem.
Yeah, skip ahead here to Lisa Parker. She's going to give us an update on Bureau of Early Intervention Services and Family Supports.
Great. Thanks, Netta. For those that don't know me, Netta just said who I am, and I'm really excited and appreciative of the time. So I have three big updates. Every year we do an early intervention family satisfactory survey. It goes out to families who have children active in early intervention from birth to school age. We have an expectation that our programs have at least 30% return rate. And as of last year, it was 34%. And as of last week, you can see we just opened it February 1st. We've had 1,258 responses. So there's lots of ideas about how it's through our local early intervention programs. And since they get weekly results, they can see, oh, a neighbor or, someone about the same size as me has a much higher return rate. I wonder what they did. So it's really been helpful in, increasing the return rate. And so we're excited to kick that off there. That link is for a recorded webinar, but there's also an FAQ and a PowerPoint, just if you're interested in more information about the webinar. Generally, the questions are the same because some are federally required, but it's updated in different languages too. Sorry about that. Really quickly, it's been many years since early intervention, infant toddler has had any study about the state set rates. And so PCG is, and you could see a public consulting group, is contracted to do a rate study. You can see through the PowerPoint, there's advisory committees, focus groups, a time study, cost study, and then they're looking at market rates. So we are really excited to hear what the recommendations are after all those groups have had input into it. And then they'll present OCDEL with their recommendations. So we're really excited and appreciative of anybody. In fact, there's at least one SAC member who is part of the advisory committee, Wendy. So thanks for your time and attention. The last big update is the U.S. Department of Education and Health and Human Services updated a position statement on inclusion of children with disabilities in early childhood programs. And so, you know, it does, do you mind moving that forward one? Thanks. It talks about all children with and without disabilities needing access to, you know, a lot of your programs, high quality, inclusive programs. And it talks about being beneficial for children with disabilities and children without disabilities, and how inclusion is part of being a high quality early childhood program. It also talks about the trajectory that being in an inclusive, high quality early childhood program makes for children with and without disabilities, but the research is very clear. Children with disabilities set on a trajectory to be included in their education and their community by being part of high quality early childhood. Click next slide. Why the Department of Education and Health and Human Services updated the policy announcement had to do with post-COVID, because everyone knows, right, it's been hard for children with disabilities, any child, to access, you know, a high quality early childhood program during COVID. And then we've had, you know, the aftermath with staffing. It acknowledges that has impacted, you know, a lot of children's ability to access and participate, and therefore a lot more children with disabilities have received their services separate from their peers. It also, I think those are the big points around this. Then it went into really the core of how we need to support children with disabilities. What's highlighted is the way we provide services, early intervention. We're moving towards a service delivery system that supports the adults within the child's life, within their typical routines. And so we're looking at moving forward embedded instruction. So that early intervention is really a partner with early childhood to support children. The other key piece is parents of children with disabilities, like myself and lots of other parents, need childcare. They need childcare for the full day and for the full week. And so it's a reminder that early intervention isn't a place. It's really those individualized supports and services that we can do for the adults. So I think that was a good reminder that, you know, childcare is needed for everyone. And the last slide, if you're interested, does have the full policy statement. It has state and local action plans. It also has really great examples of what other states have done around this. And those bullets afterwards are really taking home to your local, going back to your community. Is there a group that you meet with regularly, or do you need to do separate teaming around inclusion? Making sure not just I have a good relationship with my community partner, but it's very, very clear in writing the expectations of each other, partners, referral, screening. So we feel like that's key. Going to new leaders, looking back at your policies and procedures, are they inclusive? And like the SAC, always engaging families as essential partners. Thank you for letting me go on, but I am obviously very excited about the US support of where early intervention and OCDEL is, because that's OCDEL's expectation around inclusion. Thanks.
Wonderful, Lisa. Thank you so much. So any questions about OCDEL programs, announcements, updates, you can add those to the chat for follow-up. And next up, we are going to move to the Pennsylvania Key side of things. And Brandy Fox joined us today to present on the topic of behaviors that caregivers can find challenging. Brandy, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, thanks for having me. Hello, everyone on the SAC. I'm glad to be here. Netta invited me to share a little bit of an update on our state, our statewide mental health consultation program, and a little bit about the rapid response grants that we're supporting through PDG. So I tried to choose a little bit of information and some data, but I am more than willing to take your questions. And if I can't answer them today, I will follow up in writing and answer them at a later date. So I just wanted to let you know, since 2006, OCDEL has supported our statewide mental health consultation program. We have grown from 3 staff to 33 staff since 2006, and we're really grateful for the sustainability of the program. You can go to the next slide. So just thinking about, mental health consultation is really an indirect service meant to support the adults who are caring for young children. So mental health consultation is not therapy. We're not fixing the kiddos. We're really partnering with our adult caregivers and parents to help them improve or build their capacity to support social emotional development in young children, to do things differently that hopefully will mitigate challenging behaviors, and really also be that bridge for early learning programs as well as families to other community services if some other additional supports are needed around a young child. You can go to the next slide. To give you a sense of kind of what programs receive with mental health consultation, we do a lot of on-site observation in the classroom to get a sense of what's going on for a child or what's going on in that entire classroom. What are the practices? We really help to support our early childhood professionals to think and look at young children in a strengths-based way to find out what their strengths are, and really kind of start to problem solve around kind of those challenging areas. Our staff work with both families and childcare programs to create a strategic, like an action plan, things that they're going to implement, whether that's visual schedules, whether that's using social emotional posters, different things that they can embed into the routines of their practices in their classroom. And then we really work really hard to also bridge the relationship between early childhood professionals and families, because we know one of the biggest indicators for expulsion or suspension risk is a challenging relationship between the adults. So our staff really work really hard to help to bridge and improve that relationship between families and their childcare program. And then, like I said, we do assist with resources and making referrals for children, families, and the workforce if some additional supports are indicated. Next slide, please. Benefits of ECMH consultation, not only in Pennsylvania, but across the nation. And what we've learned from the Center of Excellence is we know that mental health consultation helps to reduce caregiver stress. It increases confidence, it puts more tools in their toolbox so that they can implement practices in their classroom. It helps, we really look at reflective practice, reframing behavior, finding different ways to understand what might be going on for that little person. We do see a reduction in challenging behaviors post-consultation. We do see a reduction in expulsion suspension practices. And then, of course, we work real hard to link families. So there's a lot of benefits to mental health consultation. Next slide, please. I wanted to give you a sense of where 33 people are living. So all of our staff are located in their home office all across the state of Pennsylvania. And we tend to deploy them within about a 2-hour diameter from their home office. So we're trying to maximize our reach across the state. We have 4 regional supervisors, 1 program manager, and 1 director. I do want to note that out of the 33 staff, 4 of them are targeting SAC, so school-age childcare with mental health consultation, and 3 of those staff members are supported through the PDG grant. Next slide. To give you just, I wanted to give you a little bit of data, and I can follow up with any questions around our data, but looking at 5 program years, you can see that we are trending upward after COVID in terms of the number of programs that we are serving. And we're hitting about, we're projected to meet or exceed last year's numbers. So that's the total number of requests. You can go forward a little bit. Next slide. To give you a sense of star level, historically, we've always tend to serve more 3 and 4 programs, but we are seeing a lot more star 1 programs requesting, star 1 and star 2 requesting mental health consultation. And I think that might be because we started virtual office hours and we have another place to engage them. So I want to give you a sense of that. Star level reach, child age at time of request tends to fall right in that preschool, right in that time frame where young children's behaviors are pretty overt and kind of always happening, as opposed to kind of our younger ages. So that's just a snapshot of that. So far, Q2, we are trending to meet or exceed last year's number. So 347 requests as of December 31st. 20 specific to SAC mental health consultation. So we anticipate seeing that grow as we have more staff. Next slide. Just to get a little bit of our demographics for Q1 and Q2. Most of them are that 37 to 60. So that's aligned with our historical data, and thinking about the target concern where mental health consultation is engaged, it really is falling in that self-regulation. It tends to be self-regulation and aggression tend to be the biggest categories of concern of our workforce. Next slide. Just to give you a sense of case outcomes, out of, I think we're serving we had 347 new requests, but we've closed 209 requests, and we're sitting at about a 6 to 8% expulsion rate, which 6% tends to be our standard. We're a little bit higher, but we also know that the climate of our childcare settings is really stressful. There's a lot of things going on for the workforce and a lot of things going on with kiddos. So we're really trying to stay within that range that we typically have historically met. And I do want to let you know that, for the longest time, I think since 2013, we started tracking what was happening on our waiting list, because we would get to the point where we could deploy a consultant and maybe a case had been closed or they didn't need mental health consultation anymore. So that is another expulsion data point that we have, that we're looking at about 17% of our waiting list ends up being expelled before we can deploy a staff member there. But you'll also see that about 39% of those children's behaviors improved. And by the time I could put a consultant in that program, they didn't feel like they needed the support because that child had already improved their behaviors. So lots of data for us to think about as we do CQI. I did want to throw in a little bit about our virtual office hours. We, during COVID, and we've extended this past COVID, we're offering virtual office hours to anyone: childcare, Head Start, behavioral health, early intervention, family members, just as a kind of holding space to be able to talk with a consultant about what might be going on, what might next steps be. Sometimes we script challenging conversations in collaboration with other early childhood systems partners. That is available, and we are seeing a great utilization of that. Next slide. So just to share, we really launched that officially in October of 2021. So you'll see so far, in 2023, we hit 144 calls. And what I really love about this data point is you can see that second graph is historical utilization of ECMH consultants. So out of those total calls last year, 144, 113 of them had never accessed mental health consultation before. So virtual office hours has increased our reach in a different way, and we're really excited to continue to engage new programs in that support. Little bit about facility reach. Star 4s remain our highest population. And in office hours, about 52% of our calls are with early learning programs. And you'll see 40% of them are with families directly, which is really exciting, really being able to support families directly, and 8% with other systems partners, home visiting, early intervention, those kind of individuals. Wanted to share a little bit about our trends. 55 requests on the waiting list as of last week. That's actually pretty low for us. So we are working through cases and trying to tackle that waiting list. As I stated, a steady increase in virtual office hours. We have a monthly newsletter that goes out that I can make sure that the SAC has access to, that we're trending really high in terms of subscribers and those that are using the resources that we've shared. And just to share with the SAC, and I'm sure that you're hearing this too, there's a lot of overwhelming environmental themes right now in the childcare setting, a lot of health and safety situations being addressed, a lot of program staff without, early childhood experience, lots of big behaviors, lots of stress for the adults, and lots of turnover. So that's one reason, mental health consultation might extend past what we normally would because of the turnover, because of the complex nature of some of those cases. I see all those questions and I'm going to tackle them, Netta, right before I do rapid response, if that's all right.
That's exactly what I was going to say too. And honestly, if you need to take a minute, and that was a lot in a little small amount of time.
Okay.
So do what you need to do.
All right, so let's see, Carol, what do we know to be the reason for most requests come from STAR 4? That is something that we think about anecdotally a lot. I often wonder, and I know Marnie and I have had conversations, sometimes I wonder if they know that they've met the capacity of their tools in their toolbox and really know that they need more help. But this has been a long-standing kind of historical data point that I'm just not quite sure, other than just trying to reach more STAR 1s and STAR 2s. I would welcome Marnie to come off mute if she had any other thoughts about that. And then how long does it take to deploy a consultant, the average time? I don't have that data right now in front of me. I mean, prior to COVID, it could have been 3 to 6 months. I think we're a little less now, but our numbers are increasing. So I can circle back with some more data for the SAC related to the average time. Asha, you
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Do you mean that somebody could make a request and it could take 3 to 6 months before it's fulfilled? Is that what you're saying?
Prior to COVID, yeah, because
Got
of
you.
the number we had waiting. Prior to COVID, we probably had every month about 100 programs waiting. Right now, we're sitting at 55, and I do not think our turnaround time is that long right now. But as more and more requests come in with 33 staff and the number of licensed childcare we're really trying to balance it out. We are also doing things like sometimes programs might send 6, 7, 8 referrals for the same classroom. So we're trying to maybe open one of those, but address all that entire classroom under one case. So we're trying to be creative in meeting the needs as best we can with the human capital that we have. I have another question. Do consultants work with an entire center or with specific teachers? So we've always kind of been a child-specific classroom kind of specific model. And so we're going to work with that classroom teaching team around their classroom, but oftentimes we're also consulting with directors. They might be pulling consultants and asking about other classrooms. So we do our best to meet the program's needs, but primarily we're focused in a classroom that we've been invited into.
Right. Randy, I'll just add on to your comment about the 4 STAR 3s and 4s. We've talked a lot about this. It's all anecdotal and a lot of assumption. So it got me thinking we do probably want to think about surveying STAR 1s and 2s perhaps, but some of the inferences we're making, STAR 3s and 4s might be more accustomed to people coming into their program on a regular basis. It's more comfortable to ask for somebody to come in and really investigate what's happening in a classroom. It could be an awareness. While we work really hard to try and make sure that these services are marketed and promoted very well, we struggle to make sure that 1s and 2s are receiving that message. So that could be another reason.
I think the one reason why we're reaching more 1s and 2s now through virtual office hours is it's a tier of consultation that's easier to do because you're in a Zoom room and you're talking directly with one person as opposed to someone being in your classroom. But those are often resulting in on-site consultation too if we're having those conversations. So, we'll just keep reporting back our data and do some CQI around that.
Can I ask another quick question? The initial evals for the consultation, and I see you have a lot there about the virtual, are those done exclusively in person, virtually, or a mixture?
You mean when they're
When
asking?
they're doing the classroom observations.
Oh, the classroom
I
observation.
have a back reason for this, you know, and it's mostly on the EI side, right? Hearing from a couple of directors that they think that the evals are off because they're being done virtually.
So
And
our
not able
mental
to see
health,
a whole classroom or a child's interaction within a whole classroom when that happens. So I'm just wondering.
sure. Our mental health consultants are out in the field. They are doing their first and second observations in those classrooms. I wouldn't say that
Perfect.
our staff aren't doing evaluations. We're not doing assessments and we're not doing diagnostics. We are really just looking at promotion prevention strategies for those classrooms. But yeah, they returned to the field shortly after all those restrictions were lifted. Now they might do. We are also thinking about, fiscal responsibility. So there are some pieces of their work they can do hybrid or via teleconsultation, like the action plan meeting. And there's some of those key pieces they might be doing via Zoom, but those on-site observations, those are done in person.
Thanks, Carol. Brandy, you
Carol.
ready to move on to our, oh, sorry, Lisa, go ahead, please.
Sorry, I just because she mentioned early intervention, so I just wanted to respond. So unless the parent asks for it or under special circumstances, services for early intervention have been back in person. The expectation is for quite a while. Again, if there's individual situations, it's really helpful to have the specifics so we can follow up, because without specifics, right, it's hard to follow up. But I really appreciate you bringing that up because it's important, right, for an advisory committee to advise the different bureaus and initiatives we're doing. So yeah, so if you can let me know the details. Now, I mean, do they always occur in the early childhood program that the child attends? Not always. Again, it's something that is part of an evaluation, observation, where they do the observation. Ideally, it's in their early childhood programs, but with staffing shortages, I'm not sure, that they're getting out to all of the places they need to be. I mean, the parent can certainly ask for that, and so then that would happen. So but let me know if you have specifics. Thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Brandy.
Appreciate all your input.
Thanks. Brandy, if you're ready, I'll move on to.
Sure. I just answered a couple via chat, a question in the chat too, but we can go.
Thank you.
Forward. So I also just I know that Lisa is going to jump in around PDG, but Netta had kind of asked me to do an update on that, on our rapid response team mini grant from the PDG. And so there's a few slides I put in here for historical context, and I'll move pretty fast through those. But just to give you a sense, OCDEL and in Pennsylvania, we've been trying to tackle challenging behaviors and expulsion suspension for a while now, right? The precipice for ECMH consultation and some of our recommendations and strategies kind of goes all the way back to 2006. 2009, we had an advisory committee that made a lot of recommendations around expulsion suspension and behavior, and how are we communicating and how are we training individuals? Then we pop into, Lisa already mentioned this, national or federal policy statements around expulsion, suspension, and inclusion. And then in 2017, Pennsylvania had to make their own policy statements. Next slide. So when we were doing some of that, there was a grassroots project happening in York, Adams County, where they were responding to the needs of the workforce in their counties and created a rapid response team approach, which is just kind of like a multi-sector approach to responding to early childhood programs, because we had a long waiting list at the time, maybe 100 for mental health consultation, and it was kind of a gap filler. But at that time, all these other counties and systems partners were really, really interested in this work. They wanted to know, how are they doing it? How does it work within our continuum? Who's funding it? A lot of those things. And OCDEL started to get some inquiries about this. Like, is this something you could support? So next slide, please. So really, we started hearing that over and over again. And so in 2020, OCDEL really supported the development of a rapid response manual and toolkit in hopes that that would help other systems partners and other communities start to think about who are my partners, how might I be able to implement my own locally designed rapid response model. You know, and we were hearing a lot of things from ELRC directors about what they were trying to put in place that kind of matched that rapid response. So then came PDG as an opportunity. And so we really are using PDG to support a pilot of a kind of a standardized approach to rapid response in each of our ELRC regions. So we were aiming for 19 ELRC mini grantees. We have 18. We have one county that we need to engage a team in. We have 6 grantees who have kind of existing or emerging programs that were in place, and 13 who don't have one in place but have a 6-month planning period to really learn from each other, go through some TNTA to really craft their locally designed rapid response team approach. So really, we are also embedding a cross-site evaluation that will help OCDEL and other local maybe funders and systems partners to really think about how to sustain it if the outcomes look really promising for this service across our continuum of care. The elements of rapid response here on this slide, but traditionally they're trying to respond to that program within 48 business hours. They're doing kind of a short-term gap filler is what I would call service, really looking at practices, prevention and promotion practices, strategies that the early child care program can work to support a young child to maintain them in that environment, looking at, you know, principles of early relational health, social emotional development, tools for that practitioner to use in their classroom. And really then also, same as mental health consultation, providing a warm handoff to another systems partner if another service or a higher level of care is needed by a child or a family. And then what we are hoping for, right, is that having a RRT in every ELRC region creates more equitable access to this type of service, that it increases and enhances collaborative relationships across systems, because a lot of these teams are multidisciplinary. So you may have someone from early intervention, you may have someone from quality coaching, you may have someone from behavioral health, all on this little team working together to meet the needs of children in the community. Like I said, it's really, I find it a complementary gap filling support within our existing system. And it's really meant to just diversify. Not every program needs, 6 months of mental health consultation if 30 to 45 days of kind of coaching and rapid response will fill their tools. So it's just a way to diversify the way we're meeting programs' needs. That was really fast, but I'm available for questions either here or by email.
So much appreciated, Brandy. If anybody has any questions, definitely put them in the chat. You can always follow up with any other ideas or questions, concerns you have in that area. We're going to go on to Lisa Unrith, and she's going to give us an update on PDG.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Netta, for having me here today. If we could go to the next screen, I want to jump in. I will tell you there's a lot of writing because I felt when you got this afterwards, you would be able to really go through. So I'm going to give high level. The needs assessment is being completed right now with ISRA, which is the Institute for State Regional Affairs. The work has commenced. The first data set had been shared with OCDEL in the beginning of February. They are moving through, accessing and evaluating the data, and we will be using it as we move our work forward. Activity 2 is the strategic plan. Here we have PCG that we've engaged for the writing of the strategic plan that OCDEL is doing. That is part of the PDG application that we had prepared, and they're also going to be partnering with ISRA so that we're not duplicating efforts and we're really asking all the right questions and getting the right information and answers to all the appropriate key holders. The 5 areas that go back one moment. Thank you. The 5 areas that the strategic plan will focus on is maximizing stable and equitable access in ECE, strengthening family knowledge and engagement, improving the quality of ECE systems by strengthening that knowledge, skills, and the abilities of the workforce, promote health and wellness in the EC workforce, families, and children. And lastly, prioritize quality ECE statewide to support our economic growth and stability. Thank you. If you could move to the next slide. Activity 3 is focusing on family, parent, and family engagement. We are going to be doing this through many different methods. There is going to be a campaign that will be shared that will go out across different social media contents, our platforms, I think is the correct word, that parents will be able to get more information and understand what is going on in the world. We are also moving into using translations. If you've gone to the PAKey website, you'll notice that there's a drop down where you can see lots of different language opportunities for parents to be able to engage and be able to read in a language that is comfortable for them. Activity 4, supporting the B5 workforce and disseminating best practices. This is where we're looking at building coaching capacities to improve the workforce experience. We are creating a manual with a team that's getting updated. There are 5 out of 21 chapters that are ready for OCDEL to review, which is in the final stages. 3 of the 21 chapters are with communication teams for review and formatting. Then we're with the ELRC stuff. So you can see we have broken down each of those parts so that we are trying to make sure we are breaking down silos and connecting and bridging the work. Lastly, on activity 4, PDO contracts with Pennsylvania Key have been updated to reflect the additional PDG funding. So that is supporting pre-K counts and HSAP teachers. PD registry enhancements have also been requested under PDG, and over the next 2 years, we will be working to also address PD registry. Activity 5, supporting program quality improvement. This is really looking at those enhancements, allowing Head Start and other legal entities to access their programs, the registry organizations, QRIS, and AI translation. We are really trying to make sure that we are hitting all of the different partners that we have, but also looking at what languages need to be offered. Right now, we have Spanish, Hmong, Somali, and Arabic. Mental health consultations, which Brandy has eloquently spoken to, is also addressed under Activity 5. Activity 6, again, Brandy reported out on the RRTs. And then we have sub-grants that are going to be going out later this year. So at our next meeting, I will have a lot more information. And those are going to be addressing barriers for care that will be done through the ELRCs. As I said, I know this is very heavy on the wording this time, but it was really my first time to talk to all of you to try to give you where we're at and where we are going. I will be glad to answer any questions here or via email that you have. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Lisa. Next up, we have Colin. We'll talk about the Equity Awards.
Hey, everybody. I hope you're well, and I hope this doesn't come as news to you, but we're doing our 3rd annual Pennsylvania Equity and Early Childhood Education Champion Awards. The application actually just closed on Friday. And since we submitted this to NATA, we have actually, I think, just under 70 applications, and look forward to doing a very similar celebration that we did last year. Probably somebody on this call, if not multiple people, have been award recipients. I maybe should have gone through the list and checked in on that. If you are, thank you for past participation and future participation. I'm going to share, I know we're running late, so I'm just going to share the additional information on the in the chat. So if anybody wants to learn more, there's more. Last year, we actually held a celebration with all of the champions, as we refer to them, at the Rotunda in Harrisburg at the Capitol building. So we'll be sure to invite folks from this committee to that ceremony as well, which is really fun. I think we had Secretary Arkush was there. Shantae Brown was there. I don't think Dr. Mamin could make it, but it was a great event. It was the amount of pride that that all of the champions have in the work that they're doing around equity, and DEIB work in general. Equity is the word that made it in here, but it's really a DEIB award. But it's really it was quite a fun event. It was really nice to see how much it meant to all the folks that were able to attend it last year. And once we have a date locked up, we'll let you know. And again, we celebrate during April, so we'll get you that date as soon as we have it.
Wonderful. Thank you,
everybody.
Colin. All right, I believe Marnie is up next.
Thanks, Netta. Yeah, I have one graphic, but several data points that I want to share with you all. Hi, everyone. So good to see you. So I wanted to give a little bit of a context for the career pathways and workforce development work that's happening at the Pennsylvania Key. This graphic in particular is showing the career pathways that folks have been placed during the month of January. So they have 2,692 folks were placed on career pathway in January, which is an all-time high for monthly career pathway placements. And I think overall we have 21,137 folks who've been placed on the career pathway year to date. So that is out of about 61,000 folks who have active accounts in the PD registry, just as a point of reference. In addition to that, I wanted to highlight that we have a number of other things that we process, and one of those is CDA vouchers. So just in January, we approved 275 CDA vouchers, which is the funding that we use out of RSTA funds to pay for folks' vouchers to be able to get their CDA application in. We have approved 21 new director credentials, and we have also expedited 366 individuals. So there is a process. We had 92 requests to expedite career pathway placement, and that happens when a program is within 30 days of their designation and their staff have just recently added qualifications and they need those to be reflected and they need to show up on the career pathway. And so we will have usually either programs or ELRCs reaching out to us to request an expedited process. So in January, we had 92 of those requests, and that resulted in 366 folks getting placed in an expedited manner. The other thing that I just want to touch on quickly is foreign degrees. We had, I think, 71 foreign degrees uploaded into the registry, but we were only able to approve 29 of them because one of the requirements of a foreign degree is that it be evaluated by an outside organization, and that organization has to be on the approved list from the Department of Ed. So while 71 folks uploaded foreign degrees, we can only place those people who've had those degrees evaluated by one of these organizations, one of these vetted organizations, according to the Department of Ed. So we do have other career pathway placements that could happen once these folks actually get their documents evaluated by one of the approved verifier organizations. It is a barrier. We have been talking with OCDEL about it, and we're trying to find ways to address that. So that's all I have right now, Netta. Thank you.
Thank you, Marnie. And if anybody has any questions on career pathways, workforce development, you can put them in the chat and always follow up with myself or Marnie. So this council is pursuant to the Sunshine Act, which means that these meetings are open to the public. And it's also written into the bylaws that we have a standing agenda item that just allows for time for if there is anyone here that would like to come off of mute and speak or add to the chat. I just wanted to make sure we allowed that. So just leave that open for a moment before we move on. And next up we have Andrea, I believe. Yep, we're going to go into the SAC member updates, and ELIC had reached out, and I think we're still doing good on time, Andrea, if you're ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like was mentioned before, I recognize that we're going to have this slide deck distributed to the membership. So I don't need to go through a lot, but I thought it might be interesting for the folks that are familiar with ELIC and those folks who are not, just to kind of give you a little bit of a snapshot of where we are now. So Annette, if you want to just kind of move forward to the next slide. We certainly have a history of having support from every governor since even before Governor Rendell, with the Governors Ridge and Swiker really establishing the need to have the business voice actively involved in our work to advance public-private investments in early learning. And so we're so thrilled that Governor Shapiro continued with the trend, and not only did he present us with a new executive order at the end of December, he made it very clear that this was very much a priority of his, and that being the case, appointed Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis to serve as co-chair. And I think this is important because in the past we've had the governor serve as honorary co-chairs, and but this is very different. The lieutenant governor, or the LG, as I've now known is the right way to call him in circles, but the LG, I mean, he is participating in our executive committee meetings, and he is really committed to being boots on the ground in this work. So he serves alongside Stephanie Dallavera, who is our private sector partner, and then Dr. Janet Haas continues to serve as our honorary co-chair. We have 50 to 60 members, and they are all kind of grounded. And I just wanted to assure everybody that, our commissioners, we work really hard to make sure that they understand all the data and the information around how critically important quality early learning is for families, for their own bottom line and their colleagues, as well as Pennsylvania's economy, children, and then we really have doubled down on making sure that our commissioners understand the talking points around compensation and benefits for childcare teachers. Go ahead, Dada. And so as part of our work, Investments in Caring PA, if you are not aware of this, this was a site that we developed in direct response to a survey that we did with the Pennsylvania Chamber in 2021, where we heard employers across the Commonwealth say they wanted to do a better job of helping their working families, but they just weren't sure of all the options. And so we figured, you know what, businesses and employers are our constituents, and we should do our best to create a one-stop shop for employers. And so in Investments in Caring PA, there are a variety of different resources, like all of the most recent data, the reports, all the statistics they need to know to kind of support the case, but then digging into the variety of options that employers can take, from looking at their HR departments and understanding, do their HR directors and staff even understand how to contact the Early Learning Resource Center, instead of eyes glazing over when I say, well, of course, you call your ELRC, making sure that their companies can be proactive when they are working with their employees. We have information about dependent care flexible spending accounts, how to partner with other local childcare providers. Certainly the technical assistance piece of how these things work is where we coordinate very closely with the PA Key and Karen Grimm Thomas and Creative Childcare Solutions. So that is a really important part of synergy that we have. We have resources around advocacy, and very importantly, we have case studies. And this is where we are collecting these amazing best and emerging practices that are happening across the Commonwealth, so employers can get inspired and curious about what's working in other communities, and then hopefully want to replicate some of these practices in their own kind of bricks and mortar or their communities. We can move forward, Marnie. That's just a little bit more about investments in caring PA. We can go to the next slide. And then you can just kind of move forward. So we are pleased that we have 53 commissioners, 19 of whom are new. So all of this is available on the website. But here, I wanted you to kind of have this as a takeaway too, because if in your own kind of communities, in the work that you're doing, if you happen to know of an early learning investment commissioner or are very active Emeritus Advisory Council members, please feel free to reach out to me, because a lot of times there are ways in which we can elevate the business voice through different events that are happening, meetings, whatever it may be. And so the next 2 slides are our new commissioners, actually 3 slides, because we have a total of 19. So we're really thrilled. Everybody has officially been vetted and appointed by the governor. So we are set. The one thing that is a little different for us is that this will be our slate of commissioners for the next 3 years, unless anybody kind of, steps down, or we have nominations that come in that we need to consider. But really, this is our slate of commissioners for the next 3 years. And finally, and I can kind of move on from this next slide, but this is kind of showing in our executive order, our key responsibilities are very similar to the way that they've looked before. But I thought it would be incredibly interesting for this group to know that in the executive order, this really gives you a grounding of where the governor is thinking. He absolutely understands, and his administration, that the stabilizing the early child care workforce is key to increasing access to affordable, available, accessible, and I made sure they added quality childcare for all Pennsylvania's families, regardless of income. So this is very different language than we've seen before, but clearly you can see the intersection between the subgroups that SAC is working on and where the business community is going to be kind of garnering ideas and strategies and solutions around public-private investments to accomplish number 1. The second part of that, availability of universal pre-K. So this is something that is certainly on the governor's radar. They are the first to admit that you need to accomplish number 1 before you can move on to number 2, right? Because of the mixed service delivery system that we have, and the importance, again, of that, having that strong and robust system on which you can build universal access. And then the third piece of that is expanding availability for all-day kindergarten in Pennsylvania, a much lower hanging fruit, but again, understanding that continuum of quality from infants, toddlers, all the way up through the kindergarten system to then move into, grades 1st through 12. So I just wanted to put that out there, because I know when I read it, I was a little taken, like, wow, this is great. And then really digging into the conversations with the policy folks, understanding how kind of all these pieces will fit together. So that,
Thanks, Andrea. We do have one question in the chat.
Yeah, Diane, let me see. I saw something come through, but I can't multitask.
Yep, that's okay.
Oh,
How is
yes.
got it?
Oh, perfect. So thank you, Diane, for that. And as a part of that, we are being very intentional in making sure that we have cross-sector representation in our work. So, I am very fortunate that Netta has been asked to intentionally be that liaison between the work of kind of ELIC and the work of SAC. As well as Karen Grimm Thomas. And so we're making sure that we do have those intersections. And of course, I meet with Shantae on a regular basis as well.
If anybody has any other questions for Andrea or ELIC overall, you can add those to the chat for follow-up. Steve, if you're on, we only have a couple minutes, but I definitely don't want to leave out the OCDEL Start Strong listening sessions.
Yep, I'm here. Good afternoon, everyone. So this is something that the partners of Start Strong PA was very pleased to partner with OCDEL leadership on. If you recall, these listening sessions were in follow-up to a statewide survey that was conducted in September of last year by CHOP Policy Lab, really to dig into what was front of mind for childcare providers across the state, the challenges that they were facing, and what they were feeling were the priority areas that should be looked at moving forward. So when we planned these listening tours, we had 13 virtual listening sessions that were co-hosted by Start Strong PA and the Deputy Secretary. Over 1,000 participants, over 1,000 childcare providers participated throughout these various sessions. Each one provided the opportunity to focus on a particular region and the specific issues and concerns that they had in that individual region, as well as the opportunities for sharing potential solutions. Overwhelmingly, and it's not a surprise, it's been discussed a couple times on today's call, but the top concern that is front of mind is recruitment and retention of staff. And this is demonstrated by the data that came out of the poll or the survey that showed, we're still contending with thousands of open childcare positions across the state. That is serving as a contraction to the overall system of roughly 25,000 slots. So we are working to finalize individual reports and the executive summary of each of these sessions. That'll be available later in March. And we're also actively talking with OCDEL on what a release strategy can be to get these out there and informing the debate as we continue to look for solutions around recruitment and retention. Certainly, it'll be used and be central to our ongoing advocacy efforts with Start Strong PA. So thank you for the opportunity to update everyone, Netta.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. If anyone has any questions about the listening sessions, you can add that to the chat. We are through the agenda. We made it just in time. If anyone has any questions, certainly feel free to come off mute. And if you need to go, just go ahead and go. I'm going to stop sharing, and you can also add anything to the chat for follow-up as well. I definitely want to thank everyone who presented today. And if there are SAC members who would like to be on the agenda next time, just let me know that.